Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into a concept that, well, it seems to grab hold of us, doesn't it? Legacy.
Yeah, what do we actually leave behind? It's a fundamental question.
And it's one that clearly preoccupied some of history's most significant figures.
Oh, absolutely. You think about the dedication, the sacrifices. People like Alexander the Great, Marcus Aurelius, Gandhi, Churchill, Mandela, Martin Luther King Jr., they absolutely seem driven by a sense of their lasting impact, you know?
For sure. And our sources for this deep dive, they offer a really personal window into that question. Starts from an unexpected place, actually.
Right. It sets this scene, a cold, gray December day, waking up feeling recharged after leaving the balcony door open.
Yeah, that crisp air moment. And resisting the pull of technology, even though, admit, screen time is way up.
It's like a pause, right? Prompted by this vivid dream the author mentions, though maybe that's a deep dive for another time.
Huh, maybe. But that quiet reflection, it sets up this core contrast we're exploring.
Exactly. On one hand, you've got these historical giants seemingly obsessed with their future legacy.
And then, bam, the source hits you with this modern perspective that feels, well, startlingly different.
Yes, the catalyst for the author really digging into this was a conversation about Mike Tyson.
Ah, right. His recent boxing match against Jake Paul in Texas.
Yeah.
Big event, lots of talk around it.
Huge event. And a friend that the author was talking to felt, well, a kind of sadness.
Watching Tyson at 58 and thinking he might be damaging his legacy with that fight.
Precisely. But then you get Tyson's own perspective quoted directly in the source, and wow, it's incredibly blunt.
Yeah, tell us, when asked about legacy.
He said, and this is a direct quote, "It means absolutely nothing to me. I'm just passing through. I'm a die, and it's going to be over. Who cares about legacy after that? I'm a die."
Wow.
It goes on, "We're nothing. We're just dead. We're dust. We're absolutely nothing. Our legacy is nothing. Who the fuck cares about me when I'm gone? My kids, maybe, or grandkids? Who the fuck cares?"
Goodness. The source mentions, the author found that, and his gaze. Chilling.
It's powerful, isn't it? Almost nihilistic, a total counterpoint to those historical figures we mentioned earlier.
It absolutely flips the script. And that contrast right there, that's our jumping off point for this deep dive today.
Yeah, we're going to take these sources and really unpack the whole concept of legacy, what it means, the power people seem to give it, looking at it through these really different angles presented in the material.
Okay, so where do we start? Maybe with the basic definition.
Sounds good. The source provides one. Legacy is typically described as something handed down or left behind by someone, usually after they die.
Right, the impact, the memories, values, achievements, maybe even possessions that kind of last beyond an individual's life.
And it's not just one thing, is it? The definition breaks it down. There's your personal legacy influence on family, friends, your community.
Then cultural legacy contributions to art, science, society. Social legacy. Maybe initiatives or charities you support.
And professional legacy, too, your work, your achievements in your career. Ultimately, it boils down to what you stood for, your influence, what you hope people remember.
Okay, that gives us a good framework.
Yeah.
So from that definition, the sources pivot to look at legacy through different lenses, starting with some major religious traditions.
Yeah. First up, the Bible. It seems to place a strong emphasis on passing down intangible things, values, wisdom, faith.
Like in Deuteronomy, right?
Yeah,
Talking
but-
about impressing commandments on your children, teaching them constantly.
Exactly. It also touches on material inheritance, sure, but there's a moral dimension. Proverbs suggests a good person leaves an inheritance, both material and spiritual, for their grandchildren.
So it links character to lasting influence.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Psalm 112 suggests a righteous life has this sort of positive ripple effect on descendants.
And the passing on of faith itself is highlighted, like in 2 Timothy, mentioning sincere faith passed down through, I think it was a grandmother and mother.
And crucially, this idea that your actions form your legacy. Galatians puts it pretty plainly. A man reaps what he sows.
Yeah. So the takeaway from the Bible in these sources seems to be this encouragement to think about the legacy you create through your actions, your values, your teachings. Focus on nurturing faith, character, responsibility for future generations, planting seeds, essentially.
Planting seeds that grow after you're gone.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay.
So from that foundation, the source moves to the Quran. Similar things, maybe, but with its own emphasis.
Yes, exactly. The Quran also stresses ethical behavior, teaching faith, responsibility to future generations. Children are seen as both a trial and a trust, something to be nurtured in faith, as mentioned in Surah Al-Anfal.
And good deeds seem central to lasting impact there, too.
Very much so. Soraikov highlights that while wealth and children are, temporary adornments of this life, it's the enduring good deeds that truly matter for reward and hope later on.
And inheritance laws are quite specific.
Oh yes, very explicit and detailed in Surah An-Nisa, seen as fundamental for fair distribution and sort of implicitly managing part of the legacy left behind.
And teaching values is key. I remember the example of Luqman advising his son in Surah Luqman about faith, manners, gratitude, passing wisdom down.
That's a powerful illustration, isn't it? And the lasting impact of righteous deeds is explicitly acknowledged, too. Surah Yasin says Allah records not just what people send before, but their footprints, the effects, the echoes of their actions that continue even after they're gone.
So it seems both the Bible and the Quran, at least from how these sources present them, really lean into guiding future generations, emphasizing good deeds and passing on values as the core of a meaningful legacy. Very forward-looking.
Focused on continuity, yeah. And this is where the source takes that striking turn, almost landing back near Mike Tyson's brutal honesty, but from a completely different angle.
Ah, the Cosme scale. You mean the pale blue dot.
Exactly. That iconic photo of Earth from Voyager 1, billions of miles away, our entire planet, just a tiny speck of light, less than a pixel.
Carl Sagan's words about it are just haunting. Look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. The source uses this to really underscore our physical insignificance in the huge expanse of the universe.
It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? All our human drama, our conflicts, achievements, loves, losses, and yes, our legacies. From that distance, do any of them truly matter in the grand cosmic scheme?
It's a heavy question. And connecting back, maybe unexpectedly, to the religious texts, the source brings up that elemental truth from Genesis.
For dust you are, and to dust you shall return. Genesis 3.19. It's humbling, undeniable, our physical reality.
Right, our physical form is temporary, going back to the earth.
Yeah.
The Bible uses this to encourage humility, focusing on something beyond our temporary time here.
So you see the tension building. We've gone from historical titans striving for impact to religious texts emphasizing continuity through values and deeds, and now this humbling view of cosmic and elemental insignificance.
Yeah, it's a real clash.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile that deep human drive to leave a mark with the cold reality of the cosmic scale and just returning to dust?
Exactly. And grappling with that tension, the source introduces another perspective, this time from a psychologist, Lawrence Samuel. His view on legacy actually evolved over time.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, he talks about how he used to be a staunch believer in legacy, started writing books 25 years ago, specifically to create this body of work that would survive him.
Ah, the paper trail. Hoping future generations find it, value it. A kind of immortality through work.
That's the traditional idea, right? But his view changed. One big reason: becoming a parent. He started seeing his most important legacy as raising another human being, hoping they'd carry on the family line. Writing was still important, but maybe not as proof of his existence anymore.
That makes sense. What else shifted his view?
The other thing was confronting the reality of historical forgetting. He points out how incredibly few people born before, say, 1900 we can actually name, even though billions lived and died.
Oof, that's sobering.
Yeah.
Even people famous just last century, big singers, writers, politicians, business leaders, often forgotten today, right? Just trivia answers.
He gives examples. Huge movie stars from the early 20th century, now pretty obscure. It really puts that quest for being remembered in a harsh light.
But he's not saying pursuing legacy is totally pointless.
No, not entirely. He acknowledges that large-scale philanthropic deeds can create ripples for decades, even centuries, improving the human experience. He mentions figures like Andrew Carnegie, John D. Rockefeller. Their foundations, their institutions, still have impact today.
Regardless of how they made their money initially.
Right. But his personal conclusion is profound, and it brings us right back to the present moment.
Which is?
That our future selves are significantly less important than our present selves. The relatively short time we are alive matters a lot more than the long, long time we'll be dead.
Wow. So what we do now, day to day, in real time, potentially outweighs what we leave behind after we're gone.
That's his argument. He believes our actions while alive live on in the lives of others. That's where the real lasting impact is. Being generous, kind, enabling happiness around you, that's where he now sees the greatest chance for a kind of immortality. That's the legacy he wants.
That really shifts the focus, doesn't it? From being remembered after death to making an impact right now. And the source actually brings this to life with a couple of inspiring historical examples from Azerbaijan.
Yes, Murtuza Mukhtarov and Zainalabdin Tagiev. The author recounts visiting Vladikavkaz in North Ossetia and being shown the Mukhtarov Mosque.
Beautiful building. Financed by this Azerbaijani millionaire Mukhtarov over a century ago. But the story behind it is quite something.
Yeah, the legend goes he fell in love with an Ossetian noblewoman, Liza Khanum Taganova. And to ask for her hand, he rode into Ossetia not just in style, but like the equivalent of 100 Rolls Royces back then, 100 white horses.
Incredible gesture. And as a tribute to her and the Ossetian people, he pledged to build this mosque.
So the mosque still stands by the River Terek, not just for worship, but as a symbol of that love story and respect between nations. Carrying his name and story over a century later, a timeless legacy built on connection and generosity.
Timeless, exactly as the source puts it. And then there's Zainalabdin Tagiev, a huge name in Azerbaijani history. Oil magnate, philanthropist, late 19th, early 20th century.
Started humbly, apparently son of a shoemaker, then struck it rich finding oil. But the source emphasizes he became a legend not just for the wealth, but for how he used it.
He funded crucial things, right? Pipelines bringing fresh water to Baku, building roads.
Financed magnificent architecture, and famously he financed the first school for girls in the entire Muslim world, recognizing how critical educating women was.
That's huge.
Built the first opera theater in the region, funded scholarships, supported universities. His contributions to education, culture, basic needs were immense.
And even though the Soviet regime seized everything he owned later on,
his name and legacy did endure through those incredible deeds. Movies are made about him, his house is a museum, statues, streets named after him.
these examples really powerfully illustrate Lawrence Samuel's point, don't they?
Correct.
Wealth might fade or be taken, but actions that improve lives, especially philanthropic ones, can create this profound, lasting, positive impact. Transcends personal fortune, even political chaos. The author clearly feels inspired by figures like these.
Absolutely. And bringing it all back to the author's personal reflection, they note that after exploring all these different takes, they circled back to Mike Tyson's blunt statement.
And they admit he was right,
Yeah,
in a way.
we do turn to dust. On that cosmic scale, we are insignificant. And statistically, yeah, almost all of us will be forgotten in 100 years. The source acknowledges the truth in that raw perspective.
Okay, but there's a but, isn't there?
There is. This is where the author introduces that really powerful what-if question. Despite the vastness of space, despite returning to dust, what if our actions, no matter how small they seem, can create ripples?
What if the people living around us right now, today, what if they are the ones who will become the figures of lasting positive impact? The next Tagievs, Mukhtarovs, or someone entirely different?
Right. The source argues that all these different perspectives, we've looked at the religious teachings, philosophical views, historical examples, they collectively serve one core purpose: to inspire us towards good.
Memento mori, remember you'll die. Carpe diem, seize the day. Both valid frames for our finite time, the source agrees. But neither means we have to completely dismiss the potential impact on the future. Because what if?
And the author shares this long-held desire, since they were a teenager, to create something with eternal value, but clarifies not just for after death.
They want to create value now, in the broadest sense, making life better for people around them, community, country, maybe even humanity.
It could be this deep dive we're having right now, or a product, a book, a business, raising a child. Even a small deed that maybe starts a domino effect of something great, something with lasting positive value.
And they express that they honestly don't get caught up in how big that domino effect gets. The contentment, the happiness comes from feeling like they're doing their best, getting 1% closer to that goal of creating value every single day.
They share a specific moment from 2024, actually. A software product their company built became responsible for contributing to the nation's health and safety.
Wow, that's tangible. A real step towards value creation, and it's sparked a hunger for more.
And looking ahead, they have plans outside tech, too, publishing their first children's book next year. A different kind of legacy, maybe? Very personal, intended to live on through the physical book, passed down.
And they end that thought with the same question again. Maybe one day their name could be spoken like a beloved children's author.
Whoa.
What if it's hopeful?
So, quite a journey we've taken, eh? From the formal definition of legacy, through faith in the Bible and Quran, contemplating our cosmic place with the pale blue dot and returning to dust.
Then, considering Lawrence Samuel's very human shift towards present kindness over future fame, and finding real inspiration in those historical examples of philanthropy from Mukhtarov and Tagiev.
And yeah, holding Mike Tyson's blunt truth about our eventual insignificance right alongside all of that. It's complex.
But the source keeps circling back to that hopeful, challenging what if. What if our actions, big or small, do send out ripples?
Yeah.
What if the people creating value around us today are the figures whose impact will shape the future?
Reinforcing that idea that exploring all this, the teachings, philosophies, histories, it's ultimately meant to inspire for good.
Yeah. The author's conclusion, after wrestling with it all, seems to be that legacy isn't just about being remembered when you're gone. It's fundamentally about the value created now, in the present, the positive impact on others today.
It's about striving every day, getting that 1% closer to creating something, a book, software, just kindness that holds some kind of eternal value.
Pushes us to look beyond just the grand historical names and see the potential for impactful legacy being built all around us every single day.
Definitely.
So maybe here's something for you, listening, to consider as you go about your day. How does this deep